The Golden Promise. Once in a small village nestled between rolling green hills, there lived a poor but kind-hearted farmer named Rihan. His days were spent tending to his tiny piece of land, barely growing enough to feed his wife and 2 young children. Despite his struggles, Rihan was known for his generosity. He would share whatever little he had with those in need, believing that kindness always returned in unexpected ways. One sunny morning, as Rihan tilled his land, his hoe struck something hard. Curious, he dug deeper and uncovered an ancient, golden chest. It was beautifully decorated with intricate carvings and shimmered in the sunlight. When Rihan opened it, his eyes widened in awe. It was filled with gold coins and dazzling jewels. Overwhelmed by his discovery, he ran to his wife, Nadia, to share the news. Nadia was as astonished as her husband but quickly reminded him, "Rihan, this is a gift from fate. We must use it wisely and for good." Rihan nodded, but his mind was already racing. For years, he had dreamed of living a life of ease, far from the back-breaking labor of farming. With the treasure, they could build a grand house, buy the best land, and live comfortably for the rest of their lives. That night, Rihan couldn't sleep. He stared at the chest, his thoughts filled with the many possibilities it offered. But as dawn broke, he realized that his neighbors, too, were struggling. The villagers often helped one another in times of need, sharing food and offering support. Could he keep such wealth to himself while others suffered? The next morning, Rihan made a bold decision. He called a village meeting under the old banyan tree. When everyone had gathered, he stood before them and revealed the golden chest. Gasps of astonishment and murmurs of excitement rippled through the crowd. "This treasure," Rihan began, "was buried in my land. But I believe it is not just mine. It is a blessing meant for all of us. Together, we can use it to improve our village and ensure no one goes hungry or suffers." The villagers were stunned by Rihan's generosity. Some praised him, while others whispered among themselves, questioning his decision. "What if we divide it?" One villager suggested. "Let everyone take their share." But an elderly woman named Daddy, known for her wisdom, spoke up. Dividing the treasure might bring short-term happiness, but it could also create greed and conflict. If we use it together for the good of all, it will bind us as a community. Rihan agreed, and the villagers decided to pool the treasure to improve their lives collectively. They built a well to provide clean water, a school to educate their children, and a clinic for the sick. They also invested in seeds and tools for farming, ensuring that no family went hungry. As months passed, the village transformed. Crops flourished, children learned to read and write, and the villagers grew healthier and happier. Rihan and his family lived simply, but their hearts were full, knowing they had done the right thing. However, not everyone was content. A man named Akram, who had long envied Rihan's growing respect in the village, began to spread rumors. "Rihan still keeps some of the treasure for himself," he whispered to others. "How else can he afford to live comfortably while we all work hard?" The seeds of doubt took root in some villagers' minds. They began to watch Rihan closely, scrutinizing his every move. Hurt by their mistrust, Rihan tried to explain, but the whispers only grew louder. One evening, as the village gathered to celebrate a successful harvest, Akram confronted Rihan publicly. "You claim to be selfless," he accused, "but can you prove you haven't kept any gold for yourself?" Rihan stood before the crowd, his heart heavy. "I have nothing to hide," he said. "Come to my home. Search every corner. If you find even a single coin, I will leave the village." The villagers followed Rihan to his humble house, where they searched high and low. As expected, they found nothing. Ashamed, those who had doubted him apologized. Even Akram, though unwillingly, admitted his mistake. But Rihan's heart ached from the betrayal. That night, he confided in Nadia. I gave everything to the village, yet they doubted my intentions. Was I wrong to trust them? Nadia held his hand and replied, No, Rihan. You did what was right. Kindness and honesty are not always understood immediately, but they leave a lasting impact. Time passed, and the village continued to prosper. Rihan, though still hurt, remained dedicated to helping his community. Slowly, the villagers realized the depth of his selflessness. They began to see him not just as a farmer but as a leader and a role model. Years later, when Rihan grew old and frail, the villagers gathered under the banyan tree once more. This time, it was to honor him. They built a statue in his likeness, inscribed with the words, Rihan, the farmer who sowed kindness and reaped unity.